Welcome back. This is Zephyr. And here are the changes. So we'll start down here. So I've been working on this just kind of a little bit here and there, as you can see. But one of the big things I wanted to focus on was some of the thoughts that I had near the end of the video last time. Kind of some low-hanging fruit, some more data editing. So this didn't take me too much time to do, just kind of some thinking and what I wanted to do with it. So I started with stuff like this, having these convert 50% to elemental and no longer scale. I then later decided to have them start at 25 and then max out at 50%. Originally, there's something like a 10% scaling, and then they get like 2% or 3% per level, and they max out at 75%. But I wanted you to be able to keep some of the physical damage there and kind of force you to have this split damage sort of disadvantage, if you will, within those abilities. So you can get a really strong magic arrow by having really strong physical weapon, but it's still only going to be a 50-50 split. Of course, there's also the bonus damage from the actual skill. Fire, cold, or magic arrow all get bonus damage from the skill. And then, just as a side note, magic arrow scales with both dexterity and spirit, where fire and cold currently only scale with dexterity. And the idea is that you're losing the damage scaling of dexterity when you're using the special ammo, the special arrows. And so normally you'd get that dexterity scaling, so that dexterity scaling is kind of just added back in. It probably needs to be adjusted for the other adjustments I just made, so note to self to do that. When I re-listen to this, I'll hear that. Going back here, I wanted to make Exploding Arrow a little bit better, and I want it to still cost quite a bit. So I think currently it's something around 10 or 12 mana per throw. And so Exploding Arrow now has 200% source damage. Now, source damage does not scale on hit effects. So if you have like chance to fear, chance to bleed, whatever, those aren't scaled. I want to make those scale at some point. But for right now, it's just the damage. I wish I had like 2 separate columns for that. That'd be nice too. But the radius, I've increased the radius from 3 to 4. Just enough. We'll test it out maybe a little bit. The idea is that it'll do more base damage. So you can kind of use like a crossbow with it and just chuck these heavy hitting missiles at something. Whereas in, Immolation Arrow has a cooldown built into it, I think originally because of lag and server crashes. But, both of these are now kind of this heavy hitter kind of goal there. So it's kind of a buff to crossbows where you could get a bigger crossbow or bigger bow, get that higher damage, and then it's going to double it up. And that's going to double up your dexterity bonuses and your strength bonuses on those items as well. Because there are strength bonuses to bows in this mod, because reasons. There were strength bonuses in Diablo 1 to bows, and that's why I added it back in, but it's very small, so we'll talk about that in a second. Pierce as a skill has been changed. It can reach 100%. Right now, it's just like 1 or 2% better or worse at any given level than the base game. It's just much more linear. So Pierce chance is now something like 25, and then like +8, and then like +6, and then from there on it's like 3% per level. I don't remember what the actual numbers are, but it's kind of similar to this. But Pierce, I misstated this last time. I had a false memory about it. Partly true, but false. So Pierce chance, for anything that is thrown or shot that is physical, can cause your missiles to pierce. And before that, if you have none, they just won't ever pierce. Pierce is a hard to balance monster due to how many of the aspects of Diablo 2 were designed. There's no base Pierce. There's no adjustable knobs with it. So you have situations like guided arrow back in patch 9, which I played back in the day. Patch 9 allowed things like guided arrow to pierce. And if you got high enough pierce, 85% or 50% or something, you'd have this situation where guided arrow would go through a target, player or enemy, go through a target, turn around and go back through the same target. And it would do this upwards of 3 or even 4 times. So maximum pierce is 4, which means maximum hit per bolt is 5. It can reach 100%. It will take something like level 30 or 29 or something to get there, which is a little bit more difficult currently in the mod because you don't have Grand Charm skillers that you can just slap on your character. So at level 20, if you got 20 points in this from skills or hard points, you will have something like an 86% chance to pierce versus the base game, which was 85. But the base game kind of just stops scaling after that. Like it's a hard diminishing returns. So mine is a little bit more upfront, slower gains. So it kind of drops off in the middle. So the base game might be like 56 at a certain level where I might only be 49. And then by level 20, you've finally surpassed it. So stronger up front, stronger in the tail, weaker in the middle. Continuing on, Immolation Arrow. The ground fire has been reduced. So one of the things that I've been going through is I don't really know exactly how much damage the ground fire is doing. And apparently ground fire is extremely variant by default. So if an enemy or a player, so player is size 2, which means they are 2x2 grid, which is more of like a cross or a plus sign in size. If they're standing on fire, they can be hit by upwards of like 4 or 5 cubes or grid squares of fire, which means that any enemy that is even remotely the size of a player, 2x2, can be hit by multiple ground fire damage things. This is super bizarre, and I understand why they did it, but how it was implemented is mildly irritating. So this means that it's really hard to balance things that go on the ground, whether it be fire or really anything, because it's taking up the different square grids and stuff. So Immolation Arrow is very, very dense, which causes it so that it can potentially do something like 9 times more damage to a large enemy that's 3x3 than a small enemy that's 1x1. Yeah. So I'm just kind of adjusting it slightly here. I want it to be able to hit a bunch of different targets and not have to be directly underneath a target and having you to need to lock them down under on top of the fire. But anyways, my character currently is only level 1. The skill level is only level 1. And it's doing quite a good amount of damage. It does have a 15% global bonus from the synergy of Fire Arrow, which I have something like 6 or 8 points into, which means that it has some pretty decent damage. But I do want to force myself or others to actually have to invest in the skill itself to kind of get more value out of it. So all damage across the board has been reduced by 20, because it is a flatter game. The gameplay is a lot flatter here. Lower curves, smaller curves. Immolation Arrow, the fire damage is also no longer variant. So it's not like 30 to 80 damage or 50 to 100 damage. It's just like whatever to itself. It's just that damage. So no longer variant. It's no longer random. And underneath the hood, the damage is happening on a per tick basis. So if you're doing 25 ticks a second and they're standing in the fire and they're taking 50 to 100 damage, you're going to average that out pretty quickly because of the variance. And I'm not sure how that works in the context of, is the ground fire calculated on landing or if it's calculated on tick or whatever. But if you were being hit by a lot of ticks over time from multiple immolation arrows, you would eventually kind of average that out because of high instances versus the variance. So I just removed the variance. I don't have variance on poison damage for similar reasons. I just don't find it all that interesting to be variant on those things. And similar, related to say like the stagger change from like a couple videos ago and a big patch that I did. Stagger can't happen from ground fire to begin with, whether it be firewall, blaze, or immolation arrow. Stagger doesn't get triggered at all by these. And then poison damage no longer can trigger it, and was rarely triggering it to begin with, but poison damage can no longer trigger it at all. So there are just advantages and disadvantages to different effects, and that's kind of the goal, is to kind of create these advantages and disadvantages that are just kind of fun. So these are more, DPS, but you're going to need some other kind of lockdown because you're not going to stagger them from the actual fire. So you're going to have to keep firing arrows, which have a slightly lower chance to trigger stagger as well. Just a critical chance, similar to Pierce. Pierce starts at 25. This starts at, I'm not sure if that number is correct. I'd have to check that. But it's something closer. It's not quite, I don't think it's quite that linear. I think it's something closer to like 10% and then 5% and then 23%. It's like 10, 5, 4, 3, something like that. So it starts, I think, at 10 or 15 and then kind of just goes up by like 4 or 3 or something. And then it minimizes, or it the bottom can never drop below 3 per level. It's linear. It's a custom formula, so to say. It's just very, very linear. Can reach 100%. It also now grants back max damage. So I talked about that in my very recent previous video. Right at the tail end, I rambled on for about 20 minutes there, as I'm known to do. Critical Strike now has max damage. The idea behind this is to give the player something other than just critical. And critical can get to 100%, but can't go over 100%. There's no double crits or triple crits, red crits, yellow crits, purple crits, pink crits, whatever. Different games do different kinds of crits, right? So there's no over crits, and I'm actually okay with that. But what I'm doing here is that you get 1 bonus max damage at level 1, and then 0.5 per level after that. So while you can reach 100% crit, if you do reach that, you're still getting max damage, and this max damage still scales with stuff like dexterity. Now in the future, I might change this to be percentage max damage, which would mean it's actually kind of weaker, but scales over the course of the game better. So it would scale more with your weapon, but it would scale less with your dexterity. So right now, the idea is to keep it flat. So, a little bit of dexterity or strength in this case, because you get this on javelins, you get this on spears, you get this on swords. Doesn't matter. You get this on whatever weapon you equip to the Amazon. It is their special bonus. But the idea is that this is giving you a kind of max damage critical, and then you can critical on that max damage by creating a larger variance for yourself as well. Moving up, I'm going to start at the top of this one instead of the bottom. Critical Strike now grants 20% attack speed per 100 dexterity. This is placeholder only. I'm currently working on some code. I put it in the wrong place. It's not fully working, but it's also kind of in the wrong place, so it's actually affecting movement speed and cast speed as well. And I don't want that. So it's like 90% complete, but needs to be completely rewritten as well. And that's what I get for dealing in assembly. So I will probably be rewriting that in C instead of assembly to get it to be more readable and more obvious of what I'm trying to do. And eventually I want to kind of get everything that I have edited in assembly to be edited in the DLL. But we'll see how that plays out. Block chance has, actually just pause before I go to the next thing. This is going to be a test run of a change. So I'm going to be testing 20% attack speed per 100 dexterity. And the idea behind this is there's already a diminishing returns formula on attack speed. So if you get attack speed directly from an item, Some skills, I think, violate this, but attack speed from items is diminishing returns. So it follows a formula of 120 times the value divided whole thing divided by the sum of 120 plus the value, which gives you a diminishing returns formula that approaches 120, which means that you really kind of can't get more than 120, like just at all. So I'm not sure how that plays out in the course of the game. This was added in at some point. I don't know if it was Lord of Destruction, patch 8, patch 9, where it got added in, but it sounds like it was not originally in the game until some later patch, and I'd have to go look up which patch that was. But I'm probably going to be doing some other edits in that location and potentially changing how the diminishing returns formula works as well, so that we can have faster attack speeds that actually are really fun. There are a lot of situations where especially a heavier, slower weapon can make use of higher attack speeds, which means that heavier, slower weapons, because you're capping out your attack speed unless you're using specific skills, you're capping out your attack speed to maybe 100%. And that might take a few frames off since the game is frame locked for animations and attack speeds and stuff, which we'll talk about in just a second. And some of those slower weapons, they can't really hit those faster attack speeds without like 258 or something threshold attack speeds. It does mean that a lot of the faster weapons fall off if you have a lot of attack speed, which is kind of funny, because that would be the opposite of what you'd expect. So I may be just kind of capping that at a higher rate, like 240 or something. So maybe you can't quite get the absolute crazy max attack speed of the normal, heavy maul or something and just be swinging it around like crazy. But you would be able to get some kind of realistic attack speed. And I might change the formula so that's a little bit more linear instead of a lot of diminishing returns formulas look more... they're really upfront. They're really, really upfront. So you get that first 50 attack speed and it's like 45 attack speed. You get the next 50 attack speed and you only went to like 58. And that's actually true. 100 attack speed, I think it is. 110 or something attack speed is somewhere around a 58 actual effective attack speed in the base game right now. I read that straight out of the code debugging. So 113 was the example actually I was using. So, and it's also truncated. It's integer math, so it's truncated. So you're not getting 58.3, and you have to hit a threshold, otherwise it doesn't even matter. So that's just, it's an old game. There are some limitations to the engine. It's a very powerful engine, as you've seen me edit, and I know there's huge mods out there like Project Diablo 2 and whatnot. As I'm buffing dexterity, I'm questioning its existing bonuses. So in the base game, you get dexterity grants armor percentage, which seems kind of weird. In Diablo 1, I believe it was flat. It was just like a flat amount of armor. So you get, I don't know, 5 dexterity would be like 1 armor class, which in Diablo 1 actually was pretty good. So that's something I might look at, is kind of focusing in that direction, maybe. Or just removing it entirely and having you actually like rely on light armor, and I can then mess with light armor a little bit more. But I'm trying to make dexterity a little bit different, and it's purely experimental, but it's following kind of a Warcraft 3 formula with this. So in Warcraft 3 and then later Dota and Dota 2, very similar, because they use the same stat system. So Warcraft 3 had strength, agility, and intelligence. Here we have 4 stats, so it doesn't quite, equate perfectly. But in Warcraft 3, strength gave you 25 health. I don't remember what the regen value was, probably 0.05. And then it gave you bonus damage if you were a strength hero, if that was your primary. So like think like weapon stats, right? Except for there it was hero locked because you're not choosing a weapon, you're just kind of equipping generic gear. And then agility gave you 2% attack speed per point, but it also gave 1/6 armor. It's also interesting because it's 1/6 armor, but then the armor formula in Warcraft 3 is actually a ratio of 0.06, so it's 6 effective health, and so it's perfectly linear. Except for I don't know if heroes got fractional armor from agility in Warcraft 3. Somebody comment and let me know if that was true. I know you could have fractional armor from things like the Paladin's Aura, which could give like 1.5 or 3 or whatever. But I don't know if agility ever gave fractional armor. I think you had to get the full 6 points from that. So block chance is no longer tied to dexterity. And I believe this was previous to Lord of Destruction. Lord of Destruction being something like patch 7, I think. No. Was it patch 7? Was it patch 4? Man, I can't remember anymore. Was it patch 4? Might have been patch 4. But I know a bunch of those patches were like day 1 patches, like 1.01 came out the day of the game releasing, stuff like that. So a lot of those patches they were probably pretty big, but they were also very, very short-lived. Like you just had to not patch your game to ever see them. So anyways, block chance in the base game, back before Lord of Destruction, whenever that was, did not benefit dexterity. And so you had a lot of situations where you'd build, a character around maybe block, but you couldn't really increase the block without, doing something, such as having a skill for block. Such as, but not limited to, probably limited to actually, the Paladin's Holy Shield would give you potentially higher block chance. So that's being removed. Again, a lot of this is experimental, but I checked in on this and I actually looked at Path of Exile. Now, I'm not a big Path of Exile junkie. I've played it here and there, but I'm not deep in the knowledge of it. I read the wiki more than I probably play the game. Because I love game mechanics. I'm that person. Now, reading wikis on games. But even in Path of Exile, some of the best block you can get from a shield, just the shield. I don't know about every skill in the game. I don't ever know every node and every little equipable. But just the shield is something like 36. And most of them are like 29. 26, 29% or something like that. So I'm sure you can get higher than that, obviously, from, there's tons of really cool nodes in that game. But a lot of shields in this mod are going to be the same way now because you're not going to be able to get a lot of percentage bonus in the shield blocking. Now, there's still shale. What is it? Not shale. I'm not sure which one it is. It's one of the early game shield runes. One of the early game runes. Let's see here. Can I find runes? I just want runes. Now, some of my runes are changed, but like I know this is not defense in shields on my game. One of these is block chance. No? Surely. I'm blind. There it is. 7% increased chance of blocking in shields. So, stuff like this, you're going to have to rely on, throwing that into your shield instead of just max spamming out your dexterity, which means that you're not going to hit 75%. You might hit 40 or 50%, but you're not probably going to hit 75%. And this is going to mean that I need to go through probably every shield and kind of figure out how I want to handle them and all sorts of stuff. These are pretty big changes, even though it's a one-line edit, and it's literally the difference of like jump not 0 versus always jump. in the actual code. It's an if that always falls through, always jumps. It's always true. So, but that's how it used to be. And blocking there's like apparently 4 different versions of blocking and all sorts of other stuff there. Furthermore, I've gone through and just kind of done some quick edits this morning before this video. All daggers, polearms, and throwing weapons are now 100% damage per 100 strength. Reason for this. Throwing weapons in the base game were 75-75. Polearms in the base game were 100%. Daggers in the base game were 100%. So I'm returning daggers and polearms to their normal value. But throwing weapons were always like 75-75. And the reason that this kind of bugged me was that if you're using a spear, let's say you're using a spear for some things and a javelin for others, you've got this spear that's 100%, and then maybe you swap to a javelin to throw. I don't like this idea that you constantly have to remember every single weapon's different thing, even within kind of related stuff. So as the spear is 100% strength, I wanted the throwing weapons, the javelins, to be 100% strength. And generally, the idea is all melee weapons get 100% damage per 100 strength. That's it. All melee weapons, period. Some of them get dexterity bonuses, but all of them get the same strength bonus. That's the idea. So if you're switching out from a dagger to a sword, that's a little different. So daggers get daggers, polearms, and throwing weapons. So this is a two-hander. This is something that you might have in an off slot, like you might be hybridizing between a spear and a javelin or something else. So these all have a 75% damage bonus per 100 dexterity. Why and what is the point? Well, the point is throwing weapons already had this. So this is a pure buff to throwing weapons from the strength. Polearms are two-handed, and I want two-handed weapons to be a little bit better. And then daggers are commonly a dexterity weapon in a lot of tabletops, video games, whatever. And so I had daggers at 100% dexterity and 50% strength. And so that's now gone. I'm not running around with a dagger on my javelin, or my Amazon, excuse me. But this is kind of the idea. I wanted to simplify this. It is a mod. I don't want it to be too complex. I'd rather focus on some other stuff and be able to have the player pick up something and go, hey, that's good. I don't have to completely change my entire setup just to use it. So if you were using a dagger and you went pure dexterity, you'd still be getting a huge value here. It'd be 100 dexterity would give you 20 attack speed, and it would give you 75% damage. That's pretty good, I think. I think that's pretty good. So if you went dexterity, you're also getting attack speed in there, or attack rating in there. Not that you need as much anymore, but you still get a lot of attack rating in there. So kind of an always hit. You're getting a lot of value for that dexterity. So, 75 might be too high. 80% on bows might be too high. I don't know. But the idea is that you could kind of go in either direction. You're going to have some strength. You're going to get some of that. But you could kind of go heavy into dexterity if you wanted to go like dual dagger barbarian and just attack like crazy with frenzy or something. All bows and crossbows have also been standardized similarly. This is a 50% strength bonus and an 80% dexterity bonus. And dexterity, because dexterity has so many other things going on, bows are originally 0-100. So to put it in perspective, you're going to get some value out of the strength. You're going to get some value out of the dexterity. You're going to get less value out of the dexterity here, but you're still getting that 20% attack speed. And maybe it should be 75 on the bows, so that I don't have different weird numbers going around here. So maybe it should be 50, 75, something like that. This allows swapping back and forth without needing to adjust your stats or losing value from them. This is reference to crossbows. So crossbows were 70-70. Because I was crazy when I did that. I do know why I did it, but the idea was crossbows were going to be higher damage, but lower scaling, so that you could just kind of pick it up and use it. Problem is that there's no real reason to not want to just put points into strength and dexterity if you're surviving. And if you're using a crossbow or a bow, you're probably wanting to be a little bit more glass cannon. So you're probably not going to want to pick up a crossbow and go, hey, let's pump everything into vitality and call it a day. No. So while it might be a little more realistic that crossbows are easier to use than a regular bow in many circumstances due to like a pullback arm or a lever or a pistol trigger type, mechanic, they're a video game item here. So I'm going to keep them a video game item here. So bows, crossbows, they're really just the same breed of thing. This means that for all intents and purposes, crossbows are just a slower bow. And so the idea is that you've got short bows, and this is true in the numbers too. I adjusted this long before the run started. All crossbows are a little bit faster. They're a -10 base speed, which means faster. All short bows are -10 base speed. Now, short bows have a faster starting speed than -10. So like -10 on a lot of them were already that way. Hunter's bow, already that way. Compact bow, already that way. But I'm just standardizing them. So all long bows, whether it be like a war bow or whatever, all long bows are 10, so slower. All regular or short bows are -10, and then which is faster. And then all crossbows are -10, which is faster. Now, once we get done here, I'll show you a thing on Amazon Basin. I've got some attack speed stuff to show off there. So yeah, you can swap bows. You want a long bow, you get a long bow. You want a short bow, you get a short bow. You want a crossbow, you get a crossbow. So you don't have to worry about like the stat changes. Same thing with like throwing weapons. You don't have to worry about like throwing axes versus throwing daggers versus regular daggers versus a polearm versus a throwing javelin. They're all kind of the same class. There's no, this is not Dark Souls. We don't need custom stats on every single, custom stat growth on every single weapon. It could be Dark Souls, though. We could have a lot less weapons and have them be a little bit more unique, too. But that's not what Diablo 2 did. But there could be a game made like that. Maybe we'll see that a little bit in Path of Exile 2. Who knows? Cool thought. Just hasn't happened so much. So crossbow damage is adjusted. I feel like crossbows throughout this run have always been a disappointment when I pick them up. They were good early game, but only because early game you were dealing with like 1 or 2 enemies, you were one-shotting them, and that was it. It just didn't make a whole lot of difference. So I looked at them, and they originally had higher minimum damage. I made it even higher. So previously you might have something that was 6 to 9. Now it might be 7 to 9. And I know that doesn't sound like much. 10 to 24. Well, maybe that's now 18 to 24, which is a huge difference, right? So crossbows are just reliable. You're going to shoot that bolt, and if you hit, it's going to be a slower attack speed. By the way, they're about 60% slower. We'll show you the math on that. It's weird and complex, but so they are about 60% slower, and that's even with my speed changes. They're about 60% slower than a bow. And so they have a high, some damages have been adjusted higher for maximum, but overall the minimum damage is the big thing that I changed. So a little bit more reliable. Crossbow missile speed readjusted as well. Excuse me, not missile speed, missile range. I actually haven't, I forgot to do this one, but I will do it today. Like, it's not going to be a hard thing. It's just tedious. I just have to go kind of revert a bunch of stuff. Crossbow requirements are now 50-50 for strength dex. So what does this mean? You're going to need more strength and more dexterity for a crossbow, kind of on average. At the same time, they should be easier to equip than they were in the base game. So that crossbow in the early game, here, let's go back. Crossbows. Am I blind? I'm blind. There we go. So this originally is like a minimum dexterity of 27 and a minimum strength of like 21. So this is like something like 19 now. Something like that. And there's your speed values there. So they're all negative 10 unless this one is negative 40, right? So like you see how it's like 6 to 9. So this is now like 7 to 9. This is like 11 to 16. This is, I think, 19 to 26 or 20 to 21 to 27, something like that. I think it's like 21 to 27. This is also a higher quality level now, and this is a lower. So this is like 26. This is 5. This is 16. No. Yeah, this is 5. This is like 12. This is like 20 something. And this is like, or this is, yeah, something like that. I think they're lower overall. Let me see if I have that open still. Level wise, 5, 12, 17, 27. Not really what I did. That's apparently what I did. Okay. 5, 12, 17, 27. This has higher strength requirements than this in the mod, and they are 50-50. So in the mod, I'm not showing it off to you, sorry, but in the mod, it is a strength requirement of 39-39 instead of 60-40. So pretty big buffs to crossbows. I don't know if it's too much, but we'll see. And then similar to like this last one, it's 11 to 14 instead of 6 to 12. 11 to 14. And it's a, oops, wrong file. Strength requirement of 35-35. So very, very low requirements here on this. Maybe they need to be higher, but they're pretty high to begin with. And I didn't want them to be as high. You shouldn't need to be, you know, just a bodybuilder to be using. You don't need to be a barbarian to be using a crossbow. Like you should actually be able to use a crossbow on a pretty regular hero. Necromancer, an Amazon, whatever. But they are split 50-50. So you're going to need, you know, 35-35 or whatever this was. I don't remember. I already forgot. 39-39 for the heavy crossbow. So this comes out sooner. It's a little bit stronger. Its quality level is like 17 instead of 24, but it's still 39-39. So, bows are now purely dex oriented. We'll go back here to bows. Bows, the first two bows have no strength requirement, and then they start having this kind of like back and forth. Like long bows require more strength, short bows require less strength. And then this long bow requires more dexterity, and then they stay as purely dexterity oriented with some mild strength in there. So I've made it so that dexterity is required instead. It is a higher dexterity requirement. So for example, that first bow in there is still 15. The second bow in there is still 28. But by the time you get down here, this is 70. You need 70 and 60 and probably 55. So it does grow just a little bit. It's just about 10%. It's an extra 5, not quite 10%. So the idea is you do need more dexterity for a bow. My logic here is that in Diablo, for actual requirements, dexterity is kind of treated as your arm and hand strength. Naturally, it's kind of like your nimbleness, your agility, your whatnot, your ability to strike, right? That's where you get your attack rating. That's where you get your armor class. But the idea is that strength relates to more of the weight of the item. And I would consider something like a bow, in this case, in Diablo, not having a strength requirement at all is probably fine. And I'm pretty sure that's how Path of Exile treats it, and various other games as well. So I am pulling away from that. They are still capable of getting strength damage because your strength still affects your draw. your pullback of the bow, just as your strength controls your swing of a sword. So you're still going to get some strength off or damage from strength, but you're not going to be required to have strength. It's going to be purely up to you. So you can go very lightweight with your armors. You can go very dex heavy glass cannon with regular bows. So if you want to go kind of more of a 50-50, lower strength, lower dexterity, higher strength, you could go for a crossbow, be a little bit tankier, but you're still going to be using some lighter gear and have a heavier weapon. So I'm going all in. It's purely experimental. That's what it is. Okay. I have been talking for way too long, but that is a huge update. I will talk a little bit longer about this really quick. In the base game, there's effective attack speed and there's base attack speed. So there is a conversion for every single weapon because every single weapon has its own animation on each character. And it's all frame locked, so it's threshold based because you're just subtracting the frames. So we'll go down to bows here. Short bows in my mod have a -10. This puts them here. This means that they have an effective attack speed of 8, they have an action frame of 6, and they have a total frame of 12. So what does this mean? It means that the whole attack animation takes 12 out of 25 seconds, which means you're attacking just a little faster than 2 times per second. Just a little bit faster. So 12. Now, if we go down to the crossbows, now all my crossbows, and this is short bow to crossbow comparison. If we go down to crossbows, I made all crossbows either -10, and I left the repeating as -40. And there is the Jukunu that has -60 at the elite tier. Jukunu. They spell it with CH in the game. It's pronounced more of like a ZH in the actual Mandarin or whatever, as far as I'm aware. Jukunu. Something like that. I'd have to look at it again. I'm not great with languages, but anyways. You can see that this is the column that we're looking at here. -10 goes to the 18. If it was 0, it would go to the 19. We're just talking about 1 frame difference. But hey, a frame is a frame. That's nice having 1 less frame on the default crossbows, right? The repeating crossbow is down here at 14, so it's still slower than a bow, but it is fast for a crossbow, 4 extra frames faster. And then if you get to the elite version of the repeating crossbow, it is 60. So it's down here at 12 and makes it the same speed as an actual short bow. But 18 over 12, that's a 6 difference, right? So that's, it's a 50%. If you're counting the 19, it's closer to 60%. So I did use that as an adjustment, but I kind of did some other stuff too. So crossbows should overall be probably stronger. There is a disadvantage of being locked in the animation and not moving. There is a disadvantage of missing, not having the attack rating may be necessary. And there's the disadvantage now of maintaining that strength requirement. But they should be, somewhere between 60 and 50% more damage, as well as more minimum damage. That's been on the screen the whole time. I'm sorry. So yeah, that is all the changes. We'll get into actually playing the game now, and I will try to make sure to actually have some jump points here. That's right. I was running around with a sword last time. Ah, silly me. Sword does more damage. Also has holy fire. It's pretty cool. We didn't get waypoints last time either. I need some identify scrolls. Do you sell them? You better sell them. If you don't sell them, I'll beat them out of you. I'm not violent, I swear. Don't really need to spend the more expensive potions. What's my gold? You can see that I still have quite a bit of gold. We haven't leveled up since like Act 3, which is making us very, very weak, which is one of the reasons why we're struggling. That does not appear to be doing damage at all. Okay. A slower burn, but it still works. That's what my normal attack does. Exploding arrow seemed to be doing less damage. Yeah, it's doing way less damage. Maybe I missed a button. Go check on that real quick. Wonder if it's a rollover error. Let's try that again. Hey, there we go. It was a rollover error. What it appears to be anyways. So the game uses like divisors instead of instead of decimals. And so 128 is the normal source damage. So I had doubled it to 256, and that apparently rolls over to 0. You know, because that's how math works. So you can see that we're doing actually half decent damage now. Still costs a ton of mana. Ooh, what did I find? Is this not who I thought it was? 15 strength, 40 to life. Faster hit recovery would be nice. That's not a bad spear. I don't need that many health potions. Okay, but you can see now that we're doing, double damage here. It's not quite double damage because of the rollover effect, but so what are we looking at? We're looking at 99% bonus damage. And then I'll need to put, so like these say 3/4 weapon damage. This will need to have like 200% weapon damage or something on there. When it comes to source damage, it does include elemental damage on the weapon. So we do have a weapon that has lightning damage. That lightning damage needs to be adjusted badly. There you go. 18. Might need to be higher, but we'll see. We do more source damage, so like maybe we can get more leeching going on here. We do have to run all the way back over there, though. That thing has health. I might actually be in a situation where I'm being penalized for experience because I am too low of a level for the area that I'm in. Now look at that. There's some damage. A side note about Exploding Arrow is that the base Exploding Arrow in vanilla does not transfer source damage to the explosion, but I have changed the missile function to an unused missile function. I think it was like Ice Javelin, which is an unused skill. Just kind of something laying around in the code. And modders are aware of some of these functions, and so how it works is it transfers all your source damage, which is super nice. I appreciate it. Let's see here. So now you can see like this. Okay, so this one doesn't have any magical effects on it, but you can see like this does 26 max damage. This is getting a 61% bonus, and so this is quite a durable. I don't think I saved that other file after I messed with it. Apparently not. Anyways, this bow still has a strength requirement on it, so I don't know if that should update even after the fact. But I'd have to save and exit to get it to update. We also have Pierce at level 3, which is 40%. Because like 25 plus 8 plus 7. So we go 25 to 33, and then we go 33 to 40, 40 to 46. I did test out the Exploding Arrow with the lob mechanic. So the assassin has the little throwing potions, and they lob the throwing potions. They have a custom animation. However, it looks really stupid, and it removes any aspect of the Pierce bonus. Now, what this allows, and I could do like an episode where I enable it and then disable it another episode, but what this allows me to potentially do is you could shoot it up and over things, and it would act like Loaded for the Bear from Diablo 3. But it looks really silly because it's like angling the arrow like sideways and the wrong angles and stuff. I don't understand the fact that it's not exploding if it kills the target. It doesn't explode. I think that's a server-side, client-side issue. It probably is exploding. See, he took damage from that. Yeah, it's probably just not showing the explosion on my end. When I say server client, I do mean like technically you're hosting your own server when you're playing the game. It's running like its own, like, we'll call it a utility system. That's all it really is. but it's mimicking the server client structure. There's no lag or anything to it. But it can cause desynchronization, and it does check for validation on a bunch of stuff, just like a server normally would. Oh my gosh, stop missing. I don't know how I'd fix it, but there is an issue with lifesteal and mana steal in Diablo 2. And I don't feel like any game has truly solved it that isn't PvP. So I've been playing Deadlocked. I always call it past tense Deadlocked for some reason. Deadlock by Valve. And it's a really fun game. I mocked the game entirely when it first was hinted at existing. I said, why do we need another shooter? Why do we need another game that's basically Dota? Like, why do we need these almost the same thing as before? You know, we already have Team Fortress 2, we already have Apex Legends and Overwatch and all these other games, and I'm not big into like the shooter stuff. I got into Warframe because it was more RPG and just kind of silly, you know, back in the day. I liked the older version of Warframe though. I'm that person. Ghost armor. Sure, I can use that for something. I don't actually care about this. I'm sorry, Tancred. I'm going to throw your armor on the ground. You know, Path of Exile, they do the whole you can't regenerate too much too fast. And games like Deadlock and also Dota, you know, same company, but those games now have kind of a built-in reduction versus normal enemies, non-hero entities. And so if you're fighting, you know, mid-boss or Roshan, kind of similar concepts there. Baron Nashor, for those of you that play League, Baron Nashor and Dragon. I haven't played League in like 10 years, but same concepts there. And so like it makes those things harder to do. As in, it makes it harder to just go into the jungle and farm. I don't want the Great Axe, I want the potion. But there will come a point where you can see I am kind of getting to the point where I can maintain my leech here, because the explosion is passing all that physical damage. It normally wouldn't, but because I've changed the game, it does. And now we have this area of effect ability. It can hit one target, or it could hit, you know, 6. And suddenly you have 6 times the the leech, because I'm hitting 6 enemies. Same with Pierce. You know, if I hit one enemy, it's great. But if I hit this guy and it pierces through and hits another guy, you know, I could hit 12 in a really packed, dense area. And so instead of all of a sudden having, you know, a little bit more mana, because of my skills and my level and stuff kind of changing, yeah, see, I just gained like my entire mana pool because it pierced. And that's true with like a lot of these abilities. Multi-strike, guided arrow, etc. Hey, there's an evil urn. Oh boy. He is cursed. Good stuff, good stuff. Okay, I need to go really slow through this area. Because we died last time. Also put up a teleport scroll. Exploding arrow technically has a higher chance to cause stagger since it does double damage. So that is actually kind of cool. And due to the fact that it does radial damage, the explosion being kind of a radial thing, I don't know how to define that in the... Like, the game just has some stuff there. And again, you know, exploding arrow doing this much damage, maybe it doesn't need to be 200%. Maybe it should be 150%. You know, maybe this is too much. It probably is. But I'm also really struggling at the moment with this mod because things keep changing and things aren't scaled properly. So I need something to be at least mildly good. And it's still taking me more than one hit to kill things. So 3 hits on that dude. I'll probably make, I've talked about this before, but certain enemies being kind of very highly resistant to specific things. These frost enemies make sense to be highly resistant to cold. They are by default. But mixing in the succubus, the succubi, and the dreadlord dudes there, is also pretty cool. Get this evil urn. I don't know where that evil urn did anything. We're gonna find out soon, though. It's gonna be like right here. No? It's supposed to enchant like the next pack you see. Another evil urn. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Ooh, chain boots. What did we find? Faster run walk. Defense versus missile. Enhanced defense. Slower stamina drain. Whoops. That's not supposed to be there. Or the heal stamina plus isn't supposed to be there, actually. But we're going to wear these, I think. What are we losing? We're losing resistances. Lightning and or fire and cold. We're gaining 10 health. 10 health feels really low, but these are level 15s. They're primarily just running around. Attack or movement speed and running around. Defense versus missile and slow stamina drain. So, you know, I'll take it. I'll take it. What are we losing here? Life regen, vitality. So 2 life versus 10 life. Cold resist, fire resist, and magic find. And they were ethereal, so that's why they were even half decent. These are still chain boots, so. I just need like 1 level. Oh, we didn't click the evil urn. That was the issue. It'll get us really close to a level up if we kind of hunt down these dudes. They also have like a 10% plus chance of dropping a unique or set piece. And so they are worth killing. Ow. My gloves are breaking. Moon Lord. So those dudes probably might need like a higher health or defense or something. They're pretty heavy armored. Wow, that's 6 maximum damage. -6. It's 20 maximum damage on exploding arrow. Just putting that out there. That's pretty silly. I want to create a whole poise system. I have thought about poise systems and weight systems for Diablo since 2013. I did some math for it even. It's really old, and I'm sure it's not very useful. But I had never played Dark Souls at that point in time. Yeah, I'm not seeing any unique enemies here. So I don't know if the urn just failed, but we did click it this time. I know we clicked it this time. This is a very lit up passage. A lot of fire burning here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, once they get that first hit off, they are scary. So reference here, we do have 96 dexterity. So that means we're getting about probably 18, 19 attack speed. Let's do the math on that. Yeah, 19 attack speed. I'd have to go to a skill calculator for the specific class and the specific weapon and all that. But earlier I was talking about Pierce. Pierce is independent of the Pierce itself. I didn't say that earlier. I should have. Previously I said it had diminishing returns. It's partially true, but the issue is that it's also partially wrong. How it works is it's got a 30%, let's say it has a 33% chance, 1/3 chance to pierce. So the first pierce does have 1/3, and the second chance is still 1/3. But since it's dependent on the first chance being successful, then it's 1/3 of that. So, yeah. Oh yeah, resist fire shrine in a cold place. I found a warm jacket and put it on. Oh wait, no, that's not right. think that's where I want to go, but that's nice to have found that really quickly. Oh, oh, he hurts. Oh, he hurts. These guys have charge. I think they revive. Some of them revive. I mean, not all of them. I'm staggering pretty well. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Stagger. I think it'd be nice to give enemies a poise value, even if it was something that's like semi-hard coded and works for everybody. But having enemies not stagger on that first hit is the difference of often killing them or them hurting you or possibly killing you. And that's the same thing in Dark Souls. Certain weapons are going to be more likely to stagger. And so if you don't kill them on the first hit with like a heavy weapon, you don't stagger them on the first or second hit, then they might get a couple hits in on you. Or Salt and Sanctuary for that matter. And so the idea would be is yeah, the 20% threshold is the true threshold of stagger, but maybe there is more to it. Maybe there is an actual value somewhere. And I know Path of Exile 2 is absolutely doing this. I'm just trying to say I did have the idea a long time ago. It's still something I want to do if I have the time for it. I probably don't have the time for it, but you know. Battle Axe with 15 max damage. I just wanna, oh, I can't equip it. It's too much strength. This poke gives me strength. That's some good base damage though. The Drifter Cavern, that's not where I want to go. It's my defense here. They have a 95% chance to hit me. Oh, somebody needs to be nerfed. It can be high. It shouldn't be 95. My chance to hit them, 76. Yeah, see. Can't wear them. Defense on stuff needs to probably still be messed with a tad. Let's go sell something real quick. Just get rid of stuff. Anybody else just like heart skip a beat there? That's amazing. Putting that deeper in so I keep that there. Faster hit recovery, enhanced defense, blah blah blah. Ghost armor. I don't really want to do a speedrunner strat where I'm like going through and doing every sort of like rune word, but like let's see if there's some rune word that I could do. There's stealth, Cal F. I probably have that. one of the original rune words, so makes it much more fair. There's an F. It's a tur. I don't actually have to carry this. You can just throw it on the ground and you'll just get it back when you're done with something there. I can sell this. I don't actually need this maul, although it would be really funny to run around with it. Look at that damage. Look at that damage. Do I have enough orts? Do I have enough rals? Do I have enough turs? I don't even know what the order of things is. That's a Neff. Don't have any more Neffs either, so that's all that's gonna be. Yeah, there's the 15 block chance there. Really high. That's a really high, really powerful early game rune instead of 7. 7 defense per missile, 4 defense on a shield. Since most shields only have like 1 or 2 defense now, it's also really big there. Eldrune. Only have 2 Elds. Did I do your quest? I don't wanna talk to you. Oh man. I could free the barbarians. Still don't have waypoints though. He gives you the runes for Ancient Pledge. Frozen Terror, 63%. See, like, that actually makes sense. He's, not always hitting me like the Slayers apparently can. I don't know why they have such high attack rating. Oh, they're coming from every direction, and I alt-tapped. There we go. So I've now gotten to the point where, like, the mana steal is now enough that I never have to worry about mana again for the most part, unless I start missing. And I mean, there are really simple ways to do stuff like capping it out, right? If I hit 7 enemies with an AoE attack, it can't give me more mana than the first hit. Like there's a cooldown on the. But that just feels bad. You're doing multi-strike, your entire goal is to, be able to do that. I know some modders are adamant that mana potions never should have been able to even be purchased. I'd rather them be a gold drain than free. There we go. Got that waypoint. Let's go back here and free the dudes. If I pick up this tower shield, you'll see that it only has 9 defense. There's a chance to block of 50%. But you also need 75 strength for it, and you're sacrificing an offhand otherwise. Part of my goal with like shields and stuff is to make them very, very defensive. Less offensive value from a shield, unless it's maybe like a little bit of attack speed or the capacity to use like smite. Not a doorway. Oh, they're not coming through. I'm not. I can't click the antidote potion. There, see, I actually ran out of mana because these guys are really hard to hit. Oh. The world is shaking. I don't know what's going on. Another option is just taking Mana Steal out of the game. Life Steal feels okay, as long as it's related to the amount of health that you actually can like utilize. You know, Diablo 1, someone was just talking to me about Diablo 1, the maximum life steal you could get was 10%, but like 10% is still a lot. In the context of like multi-hits and stuff. And if we're like comparing to modern day Dota 2 or Deadlock, they're doing something like 40-45% cut against normal enemies, and you know, full value against heroes because PvP and people actually being smart and dangerous and such. What did we get? Oh, we got an ethereal crown, but I can't wear it because it's level 31. Actually, it's not bad. Look at that. So it looks like it rolled 4 all stats. Or 7 all stats. Something. Some combination of that. Or just rolled 4 different stats and they happen to be 11. Might be it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 stats there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's ethereal and it rolled repair durability. Tell me how amazing that is. And especially in my mod, where that matters. The max durability of like a piece of armor is like 20. I don't even know if it goes that high. Durability has been, these old items were like double durability or whatever, but they're now much more normal. Like this is, yeah. You should probably sell some of these items to get rid of old changes maybe. But things are hitting me at 95%. Anyway, I'll save that for later. It seems really good. I would love it to be like faster hit reduction or faster hit recovery. Oh yeah, that whole stagger thing. Like faster hit recovery is meant to be kind of your, you know, your thing for getting hit, but it's so required that it, I finally leveled up, that it doesn't actually feel, it's not true poise. It's not true stagger resistance. And because of that, it's not preventing you from getting that first stagger. It's just preventing you from being locked in the animation. First of all, let's just put 5 points into health because holy cow, I need it. And then we're going to do 1 point to decoy. Let's put that on. I'm not really using. How much mana does that cost? Ah, it's so expensive. I do like that I can finally use Exploding Arrow, though. Yeah, so a solution I might do is actually removing Mana Leech from the game. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. Because for me, it's not just about like keeping it limited. It's about, you know, making mana scary. You should run out. You should be scared to run out, but you should also have ways around it. And the problem is that like I'm not going to wear the 6% ring at the moment. I would not wear this over that if it wasn't kind of perfectly offsetting my stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of an all or nothing. Like if I can't maintain this, I'm just going to use potions. And if I can maintain it, I can ignore the potions. I already freed them all, but we'll free more. Okay, we did that quest. I already opened a teleport, but we'll go back here. So much of my stuff is ethereal. Is this ethereal? No, would have been nice. What did we get? There's the Tal. Because it's Ancient's Plight is just Ral or Tal, right? Okay, and then the one I'm looking at is Delve? Where is it? Tal F. Let's do it. Tal F. What? What just happened, game? What just happened? Are rune words disabled somehow? Did I break something? Okay. I fixed it. Here's what it's supposed to do. There we go. Stealth. Faster run walk, faster cast rate, faster hit recovery, some dexterity, mana regeneration is totally the wrong number. Max stamina, totally fine. Poison resist and magic damage reduced by 3. Okay, so that's what's supposed to happen. I fixed it. We will now end the video. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe naturally, and hope I catch you next time.